I will speak about our use case of TYPO3 Flow for medialib TV. I start with the boring stuff about our agency. We are a really small agency based in Lausanne, Switzerland. We work with the CMS since now more than 10 years, and we use Flow since a bit less than 2 years. And we are now early adopter of Flow and Neos for our clients. And we are completely addicted to clean code, clean software, and nice things, and we take a lot of time to try to achieve this goal. About myself, my name is Dominique Feyer. I'm the co-founder of T3SRL and the co-founder of a new company named medialib TV. I'm one of the men behind the XLIF implementation for the CMS for 4.6, if I remember correctly. I try to be the leader of the TYPO3 translation team, so I take care about the Poodle installation. Mainly, I take care about the Poodle currently. And I think that I'm not a perfect developer, but I try to improve myself every day. And I think that it could be nice if more people try to think like that. Nobody's perfect. We can do mistakes at any moment, but we can improve ourselves every time. About the medialib TV project, this is a software service system, so we have a single application with multiple clients on the same application. It's easy and friendly to use. We try to respect this. It's completely customizable. Each client can change, for example, the template, the color scheme, at least anything in the front-end part of the application. And currently, it's a really moving application. We launched the product some 6 months ago, and we add feature on a weekly or monthly basis. I just start with a short history of the project. The first goal of the project is just, yes, my user need to watch movies. So our first user story is, my user need to watch a movie. So it sounds like a really definitively simple application. But the real life is always a bit more difficult, and we need to add some things around the movie. The key feature, it's, yes, single application for multiple clients, so we need to take care that the data is not shared between our clients, and we need to find a nice way to do that. We have some advanced feature to secure stream access. For example, you can limit the access for a specific movie, for a specific group of users, for a specific country. So we need to be really strong on this point. We have really complex forms in the application. One of our biggest forms is something like 12 different domain models with some nested relation and some things. As we are a small company, we cannot support our clients a lot of time. So we need to have an auto-discoverable feature. The client needs to be able to use the platform without reading too much documentation. And we need to find a way to customize front-end templates. A short timeline. So this project is not so young. At some point, we start 4 years ago by discussing with some movie producers that found a new way to sell their movie. And we built the first prototype based on Symfony 1.4. This was just a working prototype. We finally found a nice way to finish the product with Symfony 1.4. And we will launch the project with Flow last year. The service is launched currently only in France because we cannot launch the service without having content. So we need to find partners who are the owner of the movies and deal with all the copyright things because it's not our job. So currently it's only available in France. We will launch in 2 months in Switzerland and hopefully in more countries as soon as possible. I do a small video. It's something like 7 minutes video to just show you how the application works currently. And I will try to comment the video. So it's currently the interface is only in French, sorry. But this is the front page where you can show the most recent movie, navigate in the collection, in the category, going to the detail page. So nothing really fancy here. On the right side, you see that currently there are no video available for this movie. It's because you are not logged currently. And we use Twitter flight.js component to do the Ajax things. If you don't try this tools, it's nice, really nice tools. Yeah, you can group movie for build theme or whatever. So we have a currently quite simple search engine. We will work for a more complex search engine next year based on Elasticsearch. We have some advanced feature to limit the access to a movie based on the birth date of our user. And here you can, for example, access to the trailer. The system shows you that if you are authenticated, you can have more movie available. And the user can post news, topics, or something to advertise the user that something changed in the platform. We have a complex registration process with a workflow to validate the subscription, the registration. And you can access the backend of the application. Sorry for the one password. On the upper right, you have the menu to access all the back office feature. If you click on the link, it works better. And here you have small tools to customize the color scheme of the platform. So it's a live CSS preprocessor in the browser. And if you click on publish, it just pairs these things on the backend. It's my development version, so it's a bit slow. But here it can do some more complex things. When a user is logged, you see that on the right side you have a small toolbar to allow more administration feature. We integrate Aloha to be able to customize any terminology of the application, because each client doesn't use the same terms for example, collection. Somebody prefer collection, some other prefer category. And finally, Aloha is not too complicated to integrate in your application. At the beginning, I think, yeah, it's a huge piece of JavaScript, and maybe it can be a nightmare. But finally not. It's really not easy to use, but you can use it without too much headache. Here it's access to the back office. And the form for managing movies is definitely more complex currently. Sorry for the problem with the contrast. You don't see everything. But here you can, yeah, manage your data in a nice way. In the back office, we also have a more advanced Aloha usage. I think that's pretty the end. Yes. So why we choose Flow? Last year I decided to launch the product because Symfony 1.4 is definitively a dead product. So I have two choices at this point. It's moving to Symfony 2.2 or trying Flow. where are we going? So to choose a framework or new tools, you need to know where you want to go with your application. And this is our current requirement. We need something really flexible in many, many ways. The MVC stack needs to be flexible. We need some powerful tools to help us enforce the security access to the data. We need a really flexible templating system. Symfony is okay for many of these parts. For example, the MVC stack is quite flexible. But on the templating part, Twig is not powerful enough. We need to find something more flexible. And we discovered that using Fluid with Typescript is definitely the way we need to do things. And based on we have a lot of experience with XBase and Fluid. So all the MVC stuff, if you know XBase and Fluid, you can build your MVC application with Flow without any problem. And I think that you can start even without reading too much documentation because it's quite similar. Flow offers lots of more features like security policy, AOP, or some fancy things, but you don't need this feature at the beginning of your project. So just add new feature when you feel comfortable with it, but you don't need to learn everything at the beginning. So the learning curve is really easy and not so complex. One hint on AOP, it's take care of AOP. It looks like a magic feature that can help you a lot, but it's a nightmare to debug. So take care when you use it and why do you use it. And for us, the most amazing feature of Flow is definitely the security framework. I will speak a bit more about the security framework later. Flow has a really cool and clean code base, and the documentation improved a lot during last month. And as a framework is targeted for developer, I think that the real documentation is the code. Don't rely only on the documentation, just read the code. You can learn a lot by reading the code. It's, yes, it's a good starting point, I think. And it's a framework, so everything is separated. So you can start reading the code about the MVC parts, start reading code later about the templating. And each day you learn a lot of things by doing that. And I think that one of the best way to improve your skills on an open source framework is by contributing. Don't be shy. There are lots of nice people in the team to do some review. If you found something weird, just try to push a patch. Nobody will kill you if the patch is not really clean, and it's definitely, for me, the most comfortable way for improving myself. One of the worst things in Symfony 1.4 was the form handling. There are lots of problems to do complex validation, especially in nested forms. They fail in a lot of ways. I speak a lot with some developer who used Symfony 2.0 newer version. It's better now, but it's definitely not perfect. And I think that the Flow team and the Flow and Fluid has done a really, really nice job on this point. And as form handling is a key feature for any application. And you can rely on the framework. It can validate anything. We have some strong requirements about security. Some things need to be accessible only for a specific customer. Some models need to be accessed only if some conditions are required. And the policy framework is really, really nice. You don't have to code any PHP in your controller. For example, you don't have some if statement. If my user is part of this group, please don't do that, or do a redirect to something else, or display you are not allowed to do that. During the code sprint in Frankfurt 1 month ago, we decided to change how the policy setting set it for NEOS. And I named this kind of configuration firewall style. If you speak with a system administrator, how they configure a firewall, at the beginning they just close everything. And they open just what it's really needed. And it's the only way to finally have really secured configuration. So in your policy.yaml, you just need this small annotation. And at this moment, your application will not work anymore. This configure flow in a way that every public method in every controller is just blocked. And after this small line, you can add a lot of line. But that looks complicated, but it's not. If you create a new controller, you just add one line. Okay, my user profile controller, I want to protect the show, edit, update, change password, and update password action. It's really easy to review. If some of the developer of the team create a new controller without updating this file, the controller just don't work. So you can have a really nice overview of what happened with the security of your application. And during the code sprint in Frankfurt, we had a really, really nice command line interface to output some reporting about the security configuration. For example, here I ask Flow to say, please check the effective policy for the manager group. And it just outputs a report for every controller and every action and say, okay, this user can access this one or not. It's really long report, but it is easy to read. And it can help you to take care about the security of your application. And here, you see that here you define some key. This is a resources for Flow. And the resource can be used in Fluid. So in a template, you just need this kind of things. Okay, if my user match this resource, I want to show a button or show forms or show links or anything. Now, it's really flexible, really consistent, and really easy to review. And security is always a nightmare to review in any application. Even a small application is not easy to understand if security is correctly set up everywhere. This is our flexible templating system. It's maybe the more complex parts of the application. During Inspiring Flow, at the beginning of this year, I do talk about medialib TV. And I say, yes, we need a flexible templating system, but currently we don't do it because it looked too much complicated at this point. And I speak a little bit with Christian Müller and I say, yes, you need Typescript. And I don't even have the clue how to use Typescript in my Flow application. And we take something like 4 hours, and we have Typescript 2 in our application. So we can use Typescript 2 like in Neos to configure how the templating works. And that's just awesome. Really, you can rely on it. It's a really powerful feature. Another key point for our decision to use Flow, it's the community support. You have an IRC channel, you have a mailing list, you have a really friendly team, a lot of people that take care about the quality of the system. And here you have some small, it's from holo.net, some small numbers about the Flow project. And it's cool to see that we have something like 23 years needed to build Flow. Just Flow. It's not Neos, it's just Flow. And the only red things is the decreasing commit. So it just means that compared to last year, there are less change in Flow this year. A low official red flags, but it's not red flags. It's not bad things. It's just that the code base is really stable, and now we are fixing things. We don't have too much feature. The features are there and works really, really well. Now, this is our product, so it's a never-ending project. We always have new idea and feature to add, but currently we work mainly on stabilizing things. Finally, is the Typescript rendering stack, moving to something more service-oriented. I speak a little bit about this point. And we have another project. It's digital right management for HLS. This is the streaming protocol used by iOS device. Stabilization is continuous delivery. It's a goal currently. We have some bugs in the application. Every application has some bugs. We try currently to write a lot of tests because I don't spend too much time writing tests at the beginning of the project, and this is definitely a mistake from my point of view. So we try to improve on this part. More details about how you can use TypeScript for your rendering stack. By default, your application is just a controller, and you have just a fluid view on top of the controller, and you just pass some variables to it. Fluid has a lot of features to do templates, but it doesn't offer too much logic. For example, changing the template path based on some magics. And TypeScript is just a not so thin layer between your controller and your view. At the beginning of the project, I'm really when I start to implement this feature, I'm a bit afraid to add a new layer to the application. Because I say, yeah, a new layer will cost me some memory, some CPU usage, or other bad things. I speak more about memory usage later. This is a TypeScript 2 template. So we have something. I don't want to explain exactly how TypeScript works because it could be a day or 2-day workshop to know everything. But for example, here I just define an object named page title, and this object is used to render the page title, basically. And here, it's the same object, but it's prefixed with T3 medialib backoffice. It's namespace. If my template, if the page title object is used in this namespace, the page title will change. So you can have some really flexible way of configuring your rendering based on where my object is used. Is it in the front end? Is it on the RSS feed? Is it on, you just need to namespace things and you can have some really, really powerful things. Oh, why have this one here? This is the configuration for a specific controller. For example, here the error controller in the front office. And you have one configuration each time. You pass in your controller, you can assign a variable, and here you say to TypeScript, okay, this variable needs to go to the fluid templates. Nothing more. But I hope to do some workshop around TypeScript during next developer days or sometime, because it's really, really an interesting and the key feature of Flow on Neos. And yes, what about performance? Adding a lot of line of code is always dangerous. But in this specific situation, it was that. This is the memory usage for the front page of the application. And I have this kind of difference. That's amazing. At the first point, I say, okay, I need to review my commit. I think that I removed something from my application. And after that, I go a bit deeper in the TypeScript code to know how it's definitively possible. It's the same application than before, but I use half the memory. TypeScript use a lot of lazy loading. So if your variable is not used in a partial or in a template, it's just not there. And before using TypeScript, we use really complex array, for example, our settings array or our domain array. And this big array is everywhere in your application, in every partial, so it has a cost. And TypeScript can help you to improve those parts. And yeah, that's great. Another big task currently, it's moving to something more service-oriented. Currently, the application is really a monolithic thing. It's just one single package. And we handle video. And video file average bytes is more than 1 gigabyte. So when you need to do an operation, even a move, you cannot do it at the same moment that the user click a button, because it will take something like 2 minutes to finish. So we need a way to have some service to do something in an async mode. And it's definitively a complex move. We are not an expert on this kind of move. This is our first project like that, moving from a monolithic to service-oriented architecture. And we discover one thing, that you cannot do that in just one update of the application. It's too dangerous. You will break a lot of things in your application. So the first thing that we do, we just check in our application what we need to decouple. And we set this part of the application with signal slot. So it's not really decoupled. It's always a sync action. But we use the signal slot to have a central configuration, say, OK, this should be at some point in the future moving to another package or even moving to another server. And signal slot is a nice way to do that because you can try if it works. If it continues to work with the signal slot, you can move its signal to something else later. Maybe the most important thing is that the signal slot need to be completely decoupled from your application. Because at some point, maybe the remote server doesn't have access to the user session, or you need to receive all the information required to do the task. For example, if you need to send an email, yeah, maybe it just needs to have the template pass, the variable, or something like that to be able to process the mail 1 hour or 2 hours later, or 5 minutes later if you have a lucky, fast job queue. We write a lot of tests before moving, and our job queue is based on Beanstalk. It's something like a simple database where you can record jobs. On another server, you have a job consumer that just take job. And Beanstalk has only one thing to take care. It's to be sure that one job is processed just one time. The first title of this conference, and it's always the title writing on the door, I can't speak a lot about the digital right management project because currently it's definitely not finished. And we have some problem to test this, but we do streaming and with different protocol. Streaming industry is definitely not standardized currently. We have RTMP for Flash, HLS for iOS and Safari, HTTP streaming for HTML5, HDS for Android device. So it's complex things. This digital right management is only possible for the iOS device because it's part of the standard. You can stream a movie and doing some AES encryption during the streaming. And the player will ask a Flow application, OK, well, what's the key to decrypt the stream currently? And you can even switch the key during the streaming. So you can use a different key every 5 minutes. So it's quite secure and nice things. But it needs really nice timing between your streaming server, your end user, and yeah. So currently it's not finished. We hope to finish it for the beginning of next year. And this project will be open sourced immediately as soon as it's stable and well documented. About the future, it's always hard to speak about the future because things can change really fast. We try to speak a lot with our customer to what they need. And maybe this list will die in 1 month. But yes, our goal is to have a public API to be able to do some mobile application, for example. We start to work on a templating server. And this, if we have success on this project, it will be awesome. Currently, we have one package with the business logic of the application. and another package contains only the template of the system. And for example, a client can say, okay, well, for my homepage, I don't want this layout. I can choose another one. But if a client asks, can you please update the template for my homepage? I don't want to deploy all the Flow application. I just want to be able to deploy just this template. So we will start a sort of templating server that Fluid can request this remote, call this remote server, hey, do you have any updates? I need to render this partial. And the server says, okay, no, just render what you have in your cache, it's okay. Or it immediately delivers any updates. And it could be a really, really nice feature, but it will cost me some nights, I think. Yes, we need to work on some Elasticsearch integration at some point early next year, hopefully. And currently our main work is working on our infrastructure. So we are currently building a huge cluster with React.cs to have some petabytes of storage available. And we work on an adapter for the new resource manager of Flow. This adapter will be open sourced as soon as we finish it. And we work also on adding some more semantic annotation here or markup on the accessibility of the application, because it's a requirement for a lot of our clients. And maybe in the future, if I have one or two months to spend on it, maybe we will try to integrate the application in Neos to allow our clients to handle any kind of content in the project. But yes, it's for a far future project, this one. So yes, it's quite finished, but if you have any question, or if you have any answer, I'm here. No question. We have something like 10 minutes. I need question. Well, so I can ask question, what do you think about the application currently? Or if you see any improvement, or it's quite hard to do talk just after a social event. It's hard for me, but for you to look like. So thank you for listening, and thank you to support this community. Thank you for continuing to supporting it. And if you want to contact me later, if you have a question next week, you have lots of ways to contact me. If you are interested in some of our works, please try to use the repository of the agency profile on GitHub. I'm slowly moving my personal profile to the company profile. It's not finished currently, but the official profile is the G2 agency one. Thank you.